This is a drawing that was done by Dave Eggers in 2003, shortly after the death of Amanda Davis. They had a memorial reading tribute. I don't know what the best thing to call it is. I don't know what they called it exactly at the time. They may not have known quite what to call it themselves. I was just very fortunate to have a pretty decent relationship with the person this came to, and it was offered to me, and I really loved the picture. Uh, I like the way the eye just grabs you and pulls you in there. I really like the picture, and also there's a personal connection there, which I won't go into. But of the very few drawings that Dave Eggers did for this, I can't imagine if there's one that would be more appropriate for me personally. After it was offered to me, I had a couple of questions about it. I really wanted to know as much of the story as possible to put with the picture. The fact that it's a Dave Eggers drawing is a very nice thing. That I like the picture is a very nice thing. But the context, the story of why it was done is equally important. And so I have an email, kind of answered a few things. The art comes from a former employee who worked the event, held just up the street at what was then the Last Day Saloon. Was lucky enough to get it from Dave. The art has been in their possession the whole time. I was also there that evening, and Dave told me that he originally wanted to have original art for anyone who purchased Amanda Davis's book, but that he stopped after about 20. They were mostly of animals, but a few were of fruit. The event was free and open to the public. And there's some additional text where I had some questions about the condition issues and whatnot, and not a big deal, not something I'll go into here. There's just a couple of tiny spots of foxing. I wanted to get his opinion on whether that was stabilized and I could just ignore that, or whether I should conserve it before I had it framed. It's very, very minor. I wound up deciding to do nothing, no reason to do anything. When I got it, and this was no surprise, but when I got it, it wasn't a lot to look at. It's just a plain sheet of heavy stock artist paper, ready to take a magnet and stick it up on the refrigerator. It doesn't look like a whole lot until you frame it and center the focus really on the picture. That's when it really grabs you. When I first saw it, when I was sent pictures of it, it had the look of being framed. It had been laid on looked like a black leather chair, maybe a black leather couch, but that frame of black around the picture really let the picture pop. So I went with a simple frame. I wanted all the focus on the picture. I don't want any attention on the frame. So a wood, dark brown frame. There's a little color variance in the dark wood. A lighter brown matte. Some texture in the matte smooths the transition from dark brown to light brown. So the frame just keeps bringing you in to the picture. And it's very nicely framed, but the frame is not prominent in any way. I just really like this. this picture. The eye just grabs me every time I look at it. I say there's a connection there also. I don't know what the other ones were, but I just can't imagine one being more appropriate. I was aware of Amanda Davis before this. I knew her work. I'd read her work. I knew about the crash. I knew about the Amanda Davis Highwire Fiction Award. I had above average knowledge of Amanda Davis before I got this picture. But I hadn't really collected her at all. I had several of her stories, but that was about it as far as actually having anything. But I wanted to put a grouping with the picture to maintain continuity of the context of the picture. And so I have her first book. I have a first printing signed. The first book was a story collection. And several of those stories, at least 3 or 4, appeared in magazines prior to publication in the book. Her first published story, spring 1998 in Story Magazine. It was the winner of the Story Magazine short competition, print. I have a copy of that magazine, and that story was in her book. Issue 2 of Timothy McSweeney's Quarterly Concern has the exact title always escapes me. Fat Ladies Floated in the Air Like Balloons. That's probably not exactly right, but anyway, that was published in issue 2, and it also appears in the book. She was also published in the summer '98 issue of Story, so she was published back to back in Story. So I've got both Story issues that her stories were published in. I've got the McSweeney's too. I have the book, as I said, of which 3 or 4 of those were published in magazines first. I have an arc of the book. Her second book, Wonder When You'll Miss Me. She was killed very shortly after starting tour for that book. So the title is a hell of a thing. Wonder When You'll Miss Me. Her publisher did not tour her, which some of her friends were rather aggravated about. Her publisher, William Morrow, didn't tour her, apparently didn't support the book as well as they might have, but her acquiring editor had left William Morrow, so she was orphaned with William Morrow, and they did publish the book nicely. It's a nice book. They published it in a decent run, but they didn't exactly go all the way, which aggravated a lot of friends and fans of Amanda Davis. She signed at several bookstores in California where she lived. And she went to North Carolina, her home state, to meet with her parents. And her parents had both taken, as I understand it, about a month off from their jobs. I believe they were both college professors. Father had just learned to fly. And after only a couple of stops, they crashed into a mountain flying out of Asheville. And I'm in Waynesville. She crashed not 45 minutes from where I live. So Wonder When You'll Miss Me is fairly readily available. Fine condition, fine jacket, quite reasonable price in a first printing. You know, William Morrow didn't abandon the book completely. They just didn't go as far as some people thought they should have in being supportive. And part of William Morrow's problem was they didn't handle the PR very well at all after the crash, and William Morrow magnified the ill will by the way they handled the whole thing. It's an interesting story, which I won't go into further here. But they only made like 2 stops. And she's gone. She, her mother, her father, all killed. Most of the signed books came out of California. She signed at a few bookstores in California before going to North Carolina. I have a hardcover copy, excellent copy, signed and dated March 1st, 2003, just dead 2 weeks later. The bookstore that she signed at, the bookstore owner held on to the book for a while. And the bookstore owner had a relationship with the bookseller that I got the book from. So when she got it from the bookstore, she held on to it until I bought it. The copy has always been closely, very closely held, which isn't going to change. I'm going to hold it closely as well. I have a signed and dated copy. I also have the ARC for that. So I'm putting all of these things together to keep with the picture, so that the context of where and why the picture came from is kept intact. It's nice that it's a Dave Eggers drawing. It's nice that it's a good picture, but it's not complete without keeping the story, the context with it. And the picture is a three color pencil. It is signed. There's a single D under the tail. I don't know what Cowboys is. I have no idea what Cowboys is. I know people who know Dave Eggers, but I don't know Dave Eggers, so I'm not really in a position to ask if he remembers the meaning of a word on one drawing that he did in 2003. So it's likely to forever remain a mystery, and I'm free to make up my own story as to what Cowboys means. So anyway, this video is running long, as my videos are wont to do. Leave me alone. There is another video where I go through, probably not all, but probably most of the pieces that I put together to put with this picture. Both of her books, the arcs for both books. Both books are signed. I've got 4 of the magazines she was published in, 4 or 5 of the magazines that she published stories in. So it's a very nice grouping. The grouping would be excellent by itself as part of the totality of her work, but put with this picture that brings both to a whole nother level. So there you go. Check out the other video for the various pieces I put with this, and I will stop now.